All right.
No, sorry, I did another.
Okay, so just then you saw the first part of the roundtable. We're going to go ahead and talk about some more stuff before we go to our actors. Just a little intermission right
You
here.
said we were going to.
Yeah, you already
Well,
said
he
we
decided to not go to fucking actors, you guys. Okay, go ahead, Cory.
3, 2, 1.
So one of the things that we wanted to hit was the story itself. And so, Isaiah, as the director, did you have anything particular that you wanted to say about the story? Like, what inspired you, or what was your favorite aspect of the story?
Funny enough, a lot of
Shut up.
a lot of my inspirations actually came from video games rather than movies, which I don't know why, but yeah.
I know why. Because you're a nerd.
Because I'm a nerd.
So which video games in particular?
Mainly for the apocalyptic setting, it followed a lot of like Fallout and like
and
Borderlands.
what shots did you feel the falloutness come out?
None of the shots were associated with any of the. It was more just the story and the universe that associated itself with video games.
Got it. Okay.
The shots and the direction, they kind of just followed like my own kind of like style that I was looking
The
for.
dystopian setting.
Yeah, just your usual dystopian thing.
What is that?
My hand gesture.
Oh,
It's
I thought those were
almost
your
like
quotes.
They're jazz
Yeah.
hands
Quote.
2.0.
I like that.
And also, a person that we forgot to mention, I know I have sunglasses on now, was Merrick, our editor, and we got to know him through Chris.
Who? No, I'm just kidding.
Derek is this amazing guy, and he's Polish, and he's a UT student, and he is like probably one of the best editors I've ever
my
met in my life.
God.
And I am going to only request him
He's
at all of
so hot.
all of our
Yeah,
podcasts.
In his style.
the thing that surprised me a lot about Merrick is that his editing style is really time consuming, but he works so damn fast, like it's crazy. Like,
He's
because
very
you look at his
tedious.
like if I were to do the same editing style he did, I would take a long time just because it requires a lot of like looking at all the raw footage and then putting it all together into a separate kind of thing. But he's like he's
He
got
has
like
his
his
eye.
hands memorized and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he does it so flawlessly that there's no time wasted doing that.
He was the calmest for literally probably 36 of the hours, and then there was just this I'm gonna call it the 37th hour. 37th hour is whenever Merrick officially cracked, and when Merrick cracks, then that's whenever you know we probably need to just like calm down for like 5 minutes.
He was really
because-
lonely. We were gone from him for like a
Well,
really
Oh
I
my
was
gosh,
with
he
him
was
a
stuck
lot.
in a room for 48 hours.
I was in there a lot because he was just asking a bunch of stuff, and I wanted to see how it all worked. And he was just so amazing. Like, he has this eye that I was like, oh crap, yeah, that's totally right. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And so then he kind of got mad at me at the end because I gave them a false end time. So yeah, I lied about when it was actually due, and I don't think that I lied. I think that as the producer, I have a time that I'm supposed to, make sure that it gets there. But my crew should have a deadline to give it to me. But
Right.
to Merrick, he was like, "You lied to me," and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
So much
Merrick."
could happen in 30 seconds, but to be fair, you were just trying to be careful, and you were being a good mom, I guess, because you're looking out for all of us. And at sometimes you were a soccer mom, and even worse, at other times you were a producer mom. But I think all in all, it worked out for the best.
Mom.
Then I was the military mom. Yeah, exactly.
There was that moment where we all just needed our 5 minutes alone, and I don't even remember the 5 minutes alone. It's just like darkness in my
It's because our
memory.
5 minutes alone turned to our 6 hours alone when we
Yeah.
all overslept Sunday.
Yeah.
Also, I want to talk about a peculiar aspect about our film is that a lot of the scenes were done in the dark. Did you have anything that you
Yeah, I
wanted
wanted
to
to
say
actually talk about that too,
Yeah.
actually. So thanks for reading my mind there, telepathic Cory. But yeah, just
That's what he does.
yeah, I think one of the greatest things about our film is a lot of it was done at night, or in a shot where there's no light source. There's not a particular light source. Like 50% of the film, 50 to 60% I would say was done at night, and it was crazy because when I'm looking back on the films now, and there was really only one film that was shot at night, and technically it was shot indoors, which gave it a controlled light space. So when you look about it, we're the only project that actually shot natural dark
Yeah, and
scenes,
did you hear
like
everybody?
night
And they were
scenes.
like, "Oh my god!" When you guys said it at the end, when you guys were talking at the 48-hour wrap-up thing, people were like, "Oh my god!" When you guys said that, and yeah, we had natural light. They
Yeah.
were like, "Oh my god!"
Our night
They
scenes
like-
were really strong.
They were so
like,
impressed.
the fact that we didn't set up a light, so like a lot of our night scenes came from heavily like natural light, moonlight, as well as
The fire
like
from the campsite.
our campsite, but also like our lenses being really like aperture open, like just to let all that light in. And
Yeah,
stuff.
and that's another big thing that Chris did a great job managing the camera, and it did take a long time sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was totally worth it for him to take his time and make sure that the settings were just right to get that shot. But he did understand that later on that we had to speed up the process. I know
Yeah,
that.
like things couldn't be as perfect as he wanted them, and if they did, he needed to be pre-planning. But I mean, he picks up very quickly, Chris. I mean, he's one of those people. He works independently a lot, so it's very clear that like whenever it's time to start taking direction, he kind of that's what's another barrier. But I mean, the second that he was like, okay, we still have 48 hours, and he just boom, he had it, and I mean, look at it.
And going back to like the night scene, I feel like the night scenes are probably the most important part when it comes to like our genre, like laying down our genre.
How
Because
so?
one of the conversations we had, like going into the start and even around the middle of the project, was that like, are we sure that this is enough to identify itself as a road movie? Because we started to realize that the story was really important, that we had to sacrifice a lot of the car scenes. Like we didn't have a lot of scenes where it showed them like traveling in the car, like driving. Like there's really only one scene that showed the car actually driving, like from an outside point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard to say like, well, what's gonna help classify this as a movie if we don't have a lot of car scenes, as a road movie if we don't have a lot of car scenes. And I felt like the most important part is to show that you got to show that this is a very long journey, and the only way to do that is by going over the course of days. So we had to have a night scene to show that like this is taking over a long period of time. And so that's why I feel like to start off as a night scene not only shows as filmmakers that we are capable of doing like the toughest stuff. By basically, we started off with a night scene, and I felt like that would have blown a lot of people's mind because like we're off the bat, we're already doing the most difficult part of the 48-hour film
Right.
festival, which is the night scene, and so that was really cool. And for it to take up a majority of the film as it did was even more of a surprise to us as well as I felt like to everybody else.
Well, I mean, yeah, like break it down, like, like off of like what you said about going for the road moving means obviously travel, and you either have option A, which is to stick in this car for however 7 minutes, or to get them out of the car. But for it to still classify as a road movie, you would have to move from scene to scene to scene. So I think opening up with
Yeah.
this opening of them running from someone, obviously they're coming from somewhere, they're going through this foreign area, they end up in the woods, like I just think that was just
really,
genius.
yeah, it really had to
down
be a lot of car scenes, or a number of days and a number of locations.
Yes.
You had to pick one of those things, and we went for the number of days and number of locations thing,
Which
worked in
essentially
our
was
favor.
harder.
Yeah, which worked in our favor because in the night scene, theoretically, they would cover like 30 to 60 miles probably of a journey, but all of it was done in the same open field. It made it look like it was in a different area all the time.
Uh-huh.
And then the day scenes traveled like that extra 30, 60 miles, and to have a lot of locations was
I
very
was
crucial.
never really worried about the road genre not being shown through this particular story, because initially, like in the first scene, they're like, let's go to the campsite, and she's like, no, let's go to the car. Boom, okay, there's the car. Then they're in the car at night, they're listening to, Hertzfeld, so we have a car scene there. And then we have the car when the car breaks down, and then we have the fight scene, and then we see the SUV where he's taken, when Ben, the character, is rescuing, Rachel, and takes the vehicle, and they journey on to the inauguration. So I was never really worried about it not being perceived as a road movie, because it was like a road movie or a road movie genre to me is just like a journey.
Yeah, that was the
And that's
biggest,
what Merrick joked about too at the end, actually, which was really funny. You weren't there, but when we were at the bar, Merrick jokingly said, like, when Chris brought it up again, like, I wonder how people are gonna feel if it's like a road movie or not. Like if it's a good enough journey, and like, if it's a good road movie. And Merrick said jokingly, he's just like, yeah, it's the road of life. Like it's the road called life. And we're like,
Right.
It is true. And a way that I would say it to help is that like it's a journey through change. Like there's a big change that's happening, and you're following someone's journey as that change is happening. Because usually in movies you wouldn't see them go through that change.
Mm-hmm.
You'd see like a montage, and then they'd be done. Like they'd have dealt with the change already and stuff.
Yeah.
So we were actually showing the toughest part in someone's personal journey or in someone's character development is like the actual change taking place.
Well, and essentially, like, as the writer, me and Isaiah and Vanessa all sat down in this room for 2 hours, and we wrote. And it just got to this point where like time was becoming too much, and so what we did is we wrote all the way up into the first day scene, and we were like, just go. We'll write the rest of it after we finish shooting the night scenes, because obviously we didn't have enough night left over. I mean, it was like 2 a.m. by the time we finished that, and so what we did, and that was that was I think the most heated we got was during writing time. And after that we come back, and I was the first runner. I ran the first thing of cards to Merrick, and after that I just went ahead and I started writing. Me and Vanessa started writing. Vanessa was post-op, so she got tired, and she was really struggling, but I mean, she was on it. I mean, as far as she could push herself, she did, and I mean, we couldn't have asked for it.
Not everybody knows, I had surgery like a week prior to, or something like that.
Like barely had release to be walking.
Yeah, I wasn't even supposed to be working that weekend. Like I was supposed to be on bed rest, and so it was. It showed because I was like all swollen, and but I just wanted to do it so bad. Like I just couldn't. Be there, and so I was like, let's just do it, and. I had my own little palette there if I needed to rest, and the guys let me rest, but I was definitely there for any questions that needed to be answered, and it definitely helped with the writing, but it was mostly Blake, and then since it was Isaiah's idea of the story, then he would come in and just fine-tune, not a lot, because we all had the idea of what needed to be done.
Yeah, after that final hour of our argument, we all were on the same.
But I think that it worked out the way we wrote, because the first set of writings that we all did, and then we said, let's go film that. It actually worked out, because once you guys finished filming, and I wasn't there for the first night of filming, so I just was feeling like crap, but once you guys finished filming, you already knew, like, okay, now I know what this character is doing, I know exactly where this character is going, I know where the story is going, let's finish writing this thing. And it took no time after that to finish writing.
Yeah, I think I got here probably about, I think like the first 5? Run was supposed to be done by 4:30, so 5 I got here, and I just started going. Like I was writing, and I actually was writing through her second nap. She wakes up and she's like, I gotta take a shower. Like I mean that was one thing. Like the lack of showers here was probably one of my biggest struggles.
Hey, I bathed with the rag in the bathroom.
I was right there.
I was one of the few people, if not the only person, to stay here the whole time, and I decided that I would wash myself off as best as I could because I didn't want to stink up the place.
Well, I have a few extra nooks and crannies that I definitely couldn't do. I was not going to go back to my army days. I needed to take my ass home and wash my ass. So
it was ridiculous. So yeah, I finished at 8 a.m. I finished writing by 8 a.m. and I just send it to Vanessa because he's still on location, and I'm still just sitting here oh my god, I don't know if it's right, I don't know if I need to tweak something. There's no way for me to get it to Isaiah because essentially he was still directing. That's actually whenever they went and did the scene in the building. In the big building, you saw the pretty, the overview of the city, and
they just went to go get those montage scenes because there was no writing involved in that.
Yeah, there was nothing. So they did that. I finished writing, and essentially the finalized script is 13 minutes long, and there's so much that was different in that second half from that leaving the campfire, and I mean the campfire scene was longer. Then there was another location that is completely cut out. Where
the hospital.
Yeah, where they're in the hospital, where we do this hospital. I mean, we really elaborated, and then from then Isaiah came in and was like, we still have to make this 7 minutes. So he just started chopping, and he made it go together very well. So I mean, together once we got on the same page, we worked so well together.
The rewrites were the toughest part, coming in and having to do a rewrite, because it's 2 new things for me. One, I've never worked with anybody on writing a script before, so it was new for me. 2 was that I was in the rewriting part of the script. Usually I would write the thing first.
And then have someone else rewrite.
If anything, yeah. Theoretically, if I had to do that. But since it was my first time working with someone too, I would have never known. So it was weird taking somebody's story and then it almost felt kind of like I was adapting it. Or that's at least what I told myself, to not feel so bad, because it just felt bad that I was taking it and I had to chop and stuff to the time.
Well, I mean, and a lot of the stuff that I wrote is in the film, and and I think my struggle at that point was because a writer is supposed to get it, set all of it out, and then let the director come in and say, okay, this is how the vision is supposed to be. And so he kind of came and just started molding, became like a Rubik's Cube, and he finished it. And I really think one of the hardest things at the end was the fact that we had to put it in a 7-minute time block. And so we had, like I said, we had 13 minutes, which essentially means we have to get rid of 6, which is almost half the script. And so he came in, and I mean, we already had those night scenes shot, and we kind of knew what we were doing. Like, that was solid. Those first, 5 minutes were solid. But then we had, 2 more after that we were just like, okay, we have to go. So then he cut. There was a scene. Yeah, he cut the.
Well,
hospital
the night scene ended up being on film. It ended up being only 2.5 minutes.
Yeah,
which
because
was really good to hear because we felt like it was gonna be about 4.
Oh my gosh! And then we get into this. We get into the room at the very end. We have all of our footage. Everybody's happy and finally relieved that we're done filming. Once you're done filming, we were all friends again. From the second that it was done, we were like, yeah, let's do this. All right, it's your turn, Merrick. And Merrick, I remember I was in my studio. I mean, in my office, and everybody's kind of mingling. And Merrick goes, "It's too long. We have too much."
Yeah.
And that is whenever the whole.
That's when the campfire scene got cut. Which was
came out.
The campfire scene was my favorite because it was also the part that Blake originally had wrote in that campfire scene. I actually ended up fine tuning that one. Just I didn't rewrite it. Because it had good writing. I just fixed the wording to fit
character
for time, and then the characters that I had visioned, and because that's the weird thing about being a writer too that's the weird thing about being in a writing team is when the writing team isn't the director team either.
Yeah.
Because it was Blake was only writing, I was writing and directing, so it was a case of well, I have to end up taking my vision too, so then I either have to make big cuts or hopefully just fine tune. In the campfire scene, for example, I just fine tuned to where I fixed the dialogue to where it was the dialogue that I was satisfied with because he knows I love writing dialogue and I like my dialogue over almost everybody else. It's the one thing that I get.
That's not biased at all.
But at the same time, whenever you're writing dialogue with Isaiah, it is probably, I think that was, I mean, we didn't argue, but there's some Isaiah's mind is a box with 3 walls. And if you're not in front of the one side without the wall, you need to get in front of that side to understand exactly what he's saying. Because in order for us to be on the same page, there's sometimes where Isaiah, it's just common sense to Isaiah, and it should be common sense sometimes. But a lot of times, you're sitting there, you're Isaiah, I don't understand why you're putting this here. And he's like, well, it's because, I mean, she's going to go and hit him in the face afterwards. And you're just oh, well, that's all you had to say. But with me, I'm just constantly Isaiah, why is he? And it makes sense, Blake. But why? I can't keep going if you don't tell me why this is here for me to put this here.
That's a pretty perfect analogy about the 3 walls.
Yeah, I agree. That was.
I could be a real dick with my dialogue, but it's just because everybody has always told me for the longest time that I do really good dialogue, it just soaked into me. So it's the one thing that I take my ego to is the dialogue. But I guess another thing I could talk about, because I thought I told you, I might have not, but it was the hospital scene, is the one where I had to where I hit that bridge of how do I be a writer and then have to turn to a director? How do I be a part of a writing team and then have to turn to director? And it was the hospital scene that did it for me, because for me as a director, for me as a writer, I understood where you put the hospital scene. I could see that as a writing team. As a director, the hospital scene contradicted my vision of the characters, and it's why I cut it.
Yes.
I didn't want to keep any of it in a way.
Because essentially, the way that we had it written was that
basically,
Adri, who plays Rachel, doesn't wake up. I mean, whenever they're driving, she doesn't wake up till she's already in the hospital. And I kind of, the way that I saw it was I had Ben kind of really finally stepping forward, stop being the person who asked all the question and is the person who has the answers now. And he's moving, and we still got that. Whenever she got knocked out, that's what that stayed.
And that's the part that I wanted to keep too.
He got her there at the end, and that's the way that I went. But he really wanted it to be she's strong. She's she was part of this crew, and so she wakes up. So obviously, it would make sense for her to be able to take a blow to the head and wake up 5 minutes later and make it there and do it on her own because that's what she wants.
See, and that's where that understanding came, because basically, the only reason why I didn't want the hospital scene to be there is I needed these characters to have to do this without any help. They had to be able to get through this on their own, and it was that's why I had to feel the hospital scene in a weird way. I had to say it in a weird way, it had to go. And but it did. It did. Yeah, we all had a good understanding about it, and it was.
And it made us. I mean, we were already to that point where he's it has to go.
It helps strengthen the characters, because the hardest thing about to do with this 48-hour thing is probably to give character development, because the story has to be 7 minutes long. You can't really do character development in 7 minutes.
Especially,
but I felt our film,
movie.
and I felt that our film tackled character development so much. Like that was the one thing that I forgot to explain to them, is that like for this story I wanted to make character development the priority. And to do that, we had to make the universe, basically, because that's the thing. The story is huge.
Yeah, we create this.
We created a universe, and it was something that like you could basically look at this movie, and even though it kind of holds your hand and explains certain things with like cheesy dialogue here and there, like you could analyze this film and create your own theories out of it.
We could expand it and make it a full feature length, and it would be easy.
And technically, we have our own canon. But people can make up their own theories, and we could be like, that could be true.
Yeah.
And on this subject, you said that you had some inspiration that you took from video games such as Fallout that you used to help create the vision, that universe for it. And writing plays such a huge part in the whole project, and it's pretty much the story itself. So Blake, I wanted to turn the attention to you and ask, well, what inspired you, and how did you, or what sources did you use when writing?
Writing this, it was. I mean, I've played those games, and I have, and I will say that the world that we've created is definitely a trickle of all that. But I'm already by myself as a writer. I am so driven for character development and to make sure that it is very, very like hard and very clear. And so writing that in this post-apocalyptic setting, that it was just. I'm used. I mean, it was almost easy, but I guess the inspiration came from really. He kind of made the world. I kind of
brought it to life.
Yeah. I gave them. I kind of put myself in that setting and said, how would I react? And for Ben, let's make him ask more questions from where I stand, and for her, she already knows the answers, so let her lead. And I guess that's kind of where it came, is just kind of putting me in their shoes in a real life situation.
And also, one last question: did you have any? I know we've been talking a lot over there. I wanted to bring the focus back here before we end. So, do you have any do you have a lot of experience or a lot of aspiration when it comes to leading or being the producer?
Yeah, production is something that I've always wanted to do, and I just waited till later in life to kind of do it. But first and foremost, I'm a mom, so I have to manage my household, and it's kind of the same way because everybody's bickering, and you have to know when to make it stop, when to put your foot down. I'm like 9 years in the military, so that really came in handy because I would have to be a drill sergeant on occasion, and then just production as a whole. I just love from the point A to the end. Where we don't have anything, and all of a sudden we have this idea, and all of a sudden we create this world, and all of a sudden now I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. It's just this amazing feeling, and this is definitely what I want to do with the rest of my life.
Well, it totally deserving of an amazing feeling. You guys did an amazing job. I just want to give you like a big clap. Yeah, that was awesome.
If I could just say something really quick, just like. The whole team kind of really plays a parallel to the story. It helped me when creating the universe and directing the project. Looking at the team itself really helped with like the performances and stuff. Because when it came to Rachel, like honestly, like I'm not even kidding. Like when it helped her with the performance, I pulled a lot of information from Vanessa to help develop this Rachel character, like as a fit leader and stuff. And then like when it came to like. My favorite scene in the film is Unseen. It's Hertz's last monologue.
Oh yeah.
Or it's a lot of just Hertz basically.
Well, if it's a monologue, obviously it's not gonna be a scene.
He's the foundation for like the universe and stuff, and so like pulling that to the whole team as a whole helped push the passion. Yeah, his passion towards a better tomorrow was our passion for finishing this project.
Well, obviously there was a lot of passion involved, and it was just like such a great effort, and we're all so proud. I know, we're very passionate about that. You can tell by my chest. Anyway, so I guess now we'll go to our actors. Thank you for staying with us this whole time. And once again, I'm Cory Rodriguez, and that's all that matters. Thank you.